What's that like? What's going on, people? Hey, it's another edition of the What's That Like podcast, and I'm your host, John Knowles. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever it is you celebrate this time of year. I want to welcome you to the show. This show is going to be all Christmas focused. I've got a couple of guests on that we're going to talk about a lot of Christmas toys maybe you got as a kid, maybe some of the toys you didn't get as a kid or wanted as a kid, and kind of run some of those things down between a couple of ladies that I'll have on myself. We've got Miss Emily Schneider back, a local comedian who appears in a number of local productions. She was a guest on the show back in April or May, talking about her time at Second City in Chicago and some of the productions she had. And I'm also bringing my own daughter, Alison Knowles, onto the show for the first time to talk about maybe some of the toys they both got and, you know, things they had in common. And I'll bring it to you from a boy growing up in the 70s and 80s and some of the things I wanted as well. So I think we've got something for all of you. Want to welcome you all back to the show. I know it's been a while since we've had a previous episode, the Zach Weigel episode on Stamp Out Cancer. Huge number of downloads on that one. I'm sure it's a lot due to Zach and Stamp Out Cancer season starting over at Montgomery County. A lot of events going on there. Proud to say my band Retro Rocket's going to be supporting a couple of the couples coming up on both January 6th at Chaps in Litchfield, Illinois. We're going to be doing a show there in benefit of Team Ronco in Vickery. And then on January 13th, I believe it is, at the Moose in Litchfield for the Team McCoys, the real McCoys. We're doing some support events there as they try to raise money and both try to get their goals forward to become Stamp Out Cancer Champions 2018. So lots of stuff going on outside of that. We've had an episode where I was just on with WSMI and John Michael Marty. He had called me about, I want to say, a month and a half ago and wanted to know if there was a time I could come on the show and do that. I was able to find an hour last Friday to go sit in on the live WSMI show. Give those folks a follow over there on WSMI Radio and John Michael Marty's page on Facebook as well. They've got a lot of cool things going on there. Kind of a lifelong dream for me to be a guest on the radio. Didn't expect it would happen just because I was doing a podcast, but John found the podcast, thought I'd be an interesting guest, and I think we had some fun. You can hear that episode listed as a bonus pod that's in your feed as well if you haven't listened to it yet. That was a lot of fun. That's the raw, unedited version of the interview. Of course, he took out some of the commercials and music, but what you hear is everything that we did talk about. Neat guy. I'm going to have John on my show at some point. I think he'd be a great guest as well. What's it like to be a radio broadcaster of over 30 years? John will certainly be able to tell us. So that was a lot of fun. So enough of my banter. I want to get right to the episode today, talking a lot again about Christmas toys. It's Christmas season. Emily and Allie, and we find out what it was like for them growing up, opening Christmas presents, and what's that like. So we're back here on the What's That Like podcast, and this is kind of a special episode. Not necessarily one that we've done in the past where we've had one guest and we just learn about their life story. We've actually got a returning guest this time. We've got Emily Schneider, comedian, back on the show. How you doing, Em?
I am good. How are you?
I'm great. And we've also got my daughter, Alison.
Hello.
Welcome to the What's That Like Nation.
Thank you.
And what we're going to be doing today is talking about Christmas toys. It's Christmas week. Kids are getting toys. Everybody was once a kid. You know, you watch movies like A Christmas Story where Ralphie wants his Red Ryder BB gun. His parents don't want to get it or whatever it might be. And I think not everybody wanted the Red Ryder, but there was a Red Ryder, you know, metaphorically for everyone. And that's kind of what I wanted this to be about. So we're not going to just do your one Christmas gift as time goes by. There's probably a lot that you guys wanted. Does that sound like fun to you guys today?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so really what it's about is just kind of going through, you know, your past as children and figuring out what it was that maybe you got, maybe something you wanted you didn't get. Emily, tell me about your Christmases at the Schneider household as a kid. What were those times like?
Yeah, so we have a very set Christmas schedule. Like, we know exactly how it's going to go in the morning. Like, we wake up super early, like 6. It's gotten later as we've gotten older. Like, we're pushing it back a little bit. But like, so we all go into the living room or wherever the tree's set up. And then somebody plays Santa, kind of like the Christmas Story.
Yeah.
You pass out a present to everybody, and then one by one you go through and you open the present. So Christmas ends up taking, or like the unwrapping process is like 4 hours.
Really?
Yes, it's like a long process. Well, mom has to make sure she gets pictures, of you like awkwardly like holding up your giant things. And yeah, so it's like a really long process for us. Do you guys have anything that you guys do? Like,
I'll let you kind of handle that.
I wouldn't say it's special or anything like that, or we have a tradition anymore. You always put on the TV of a Yule log, even though we have a fireplace that could be used.
Yes.
He puts up the fake one and it plays Christmas music. And we used to wake up really early, and now that Adam's older, we don't really have to do that as much.
Adam's
my brother. Yeah. Now that he's 14, he doesn't really care about waking up as early as he used to. And we just get up and mom makes breakfast and we open presents, and you still take pictures of everything.
Yeah, it's true. You got to do that. I mean, why not? Because someday you're going to look back on it and go, wow, I got that, and I held it upside down.
Yeah.
And nobody noticed. The
It's
best ones are
backwards.
when you hold it up and it's like a picture of a UPS box.
Yeah.
And it's nothing even special. And then maybe there's some clothes that you can't recognize, right?
Yeah.
So if you think back, and Emily, we'll start with you on this one. If you think back to Christmases past, I asked you when you came over to make a list. So don't go to your number one on your list right now. And I know you said you didn't necessarily rank them, but what were one of the things maybe when you were in your 5 through 10 years old range, or even a little older, that you thought, man, I really want to have that? What would that have been?
So like, I was obsessed with I had to look it up because I didn't know, like, I knew the idea of them, but I had no idea what they were called.
Yeah.
Sky dancers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah. So you pull. It's like it has like a little stand, and then there's a little rope that you pull, and it spins it, and then when you let go, the little sky dancer, which is like a little like Barbie fairy thing, takes off. She has wings, so she's like spinning and like flying through the air. It was dangerous. It was great.
Yeah.
Like, those were one of my favorite things. Those were one of those things that, like, I need like 6 of them. I need every sky dancer there possibly
Every color.
is. Yes.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah.
them too, Al?
That wasn't on my list, but I had them for sure. They were dangerous.
Yeah.
They'd go up and hit the fan, and then they'd fall. They wouldn't be able to fly anymore.
Do you both still have them, or are they gone?
No.
No, I have no idea.
Were they
where
real
were.
fragile? Like,
No.
No?
They're plastic.
I was going to say, I think like they knew like they were going to have to be heavy duty because they were very prone to hitting walls and hitting people and hitting the ceiling, like, and the fan, like.
The ceiling fan.
yeah. Well, that's a good way to start. So you had it. You had it out. What would something be on your list that you would have gone?
I would definitely say like the Polly Pocket stretch limo thing. It had a hot tub in the back for your Polly Pockets, and it had like 4 outfits, and it would play the Polly Pocket song when you honked a horn. And that was my favorite thing because they like went swimming in their hot tub, and it was a really glamorous life.
Yep, I had Polly Pocket on my list too, but it was more like the little like cases that you open.
Oh, yeah, I had.
Yeah,
my aunt had those, and that's what I
Yes.
played with too.
I did not have the limo. I never got to limo status.
Yeah.
I always had like the little.
It was like a clamshell. Yeah.
It was like a clamshell, and it would open up, and like there's Polly like living in her clamshell. Just hanging out, like, but the only thing I will say about those is that they had like really, really tiny pieces.
Oh, you could just swallow them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, living
Lose
in
them.
yeah, living in a family with like younger siblings, like both of us, it was like, okay, I got to make sure my little brother doesn't swallow this. I have to be very careful. But I'm totally on board with the Polly Pocket.
Polly Pockets. I got to change the channel here because I'm not a girl like you guys
Yeah.
were.
Yeah.
The thing that I had that was very, what I'll call similar to just you had to have it when I was a kid, and guys out there that are of my age and even younger were Tonka trucks, and maybe your brother even still played with these, but the Tonka trucks, man, they're just indestructible. You could ride those suckers, and they had the best commercials where they were like riding up and down log trails and tow trucks and holding everything, and it never seemed to work out that way. But yeah, if you ever had a Tonka if you ever had a Tonka truck, that was the ultimate. You didn't want to knock off. Like even as you get older, you want to show up in a nice vehicle with a nice name brand. When we were kids, if you showed up to somebody else's house with like a knockoff plastic truck, you were a second class citizen behind the Tonka kids. It sucked. But Tonkas were fun. Even on that note with trucks, if you guys out there remember, they were called Stompers. And they were these they ran on a 1.5 volt, like a AA battery. And they were about the size of a Matchbox car, but they were electric and they didn't turn or do anything. You just turned them on and they went, and they had these little rubber wheels, and you get all the different monster trucks in them. Those were cool too. So trucks was the first thing I'll mention on my list. What else you got, Em?
What else do I have? I do have some things that I wouldn't say were just for girls. Bop It was really, really, really cool then. And it was the very basic version, before they started adding on
Shout It.
Yeah, whatever
Throw
they
it.
do now. Yeah, I saw a Simon game at Books A Million yesterday, and you put it on your face now. Like a Simon game. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. But Bop It was twist it, bop it, pull it. Mm-hmm. I think the three things were, that you could do. I just remember staying up super late, just perfecting my Bop It game.
And it would count how many you got up to, right?
Yeah.
So if you hit 65 one time, you're like, oh, that one stays saved, right?
And
high score.
Because you had one, didn't you, Allie?
Adam still has them. Every year Mom tried to get him one. He has an R2-D2 Bop It.
Yeah, that's the one.
You pull his legs and twist the top of his hand, I guess.
Yeah.
We all had those.
I was going to say, they were really fun. I do remember, ours did, Pass It.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was like a group game.
Yes. Yeah. So you just put in how many people, I think you twisted it, how many people that you had. And then you would play, and me and my dad would play. We would just compete against each other, trying to figure out who could bop it the most.
Yeah.
It's really fun, though.
Al, what do you got next?
The next thing on my list, and this wasn't just for Christmas or anything, but Webkins were a really big thing for everyone in my class that I graduated with. All of us, mostly girls. I don't know if the guys had them, but we loved Webkins and getting on there and playing together online.
Explain what Webkins were.
They were a stuffed animal toy that you could buy at Sullivan's or Walmart, or Cracker Barrel had them for a long time too. And they came with a little code, and you'd enter that on the Webkins website, and then you'd have your own virtual pet and your real stuffed animal that you could play with, but also online you'd have to feed it and take it to the doctor, and you got to play a lot of games, and you could bring your pet over to your friend's house and they could play together with their pet. And it was a big thing, especially I couldn't have pets because I'm very allergic to animals, so this was
we got
my
your virtual pet.
Yeah.
That
was the best that we could do.
Yeah, I needed it to feed it.
Not real food, no.
But you probably you were a big Sims player.
Oh yeah.
And
this was the bridge to Sims.
Yeah.
It was pets and then people. Yeah.
I gotta keep throwing curveballs. You guys are very similar. You're closer in age, obviously. But for me, growing up, it was all about video games. In the 80s, and people had the Atari. That was a big thing, of course. And I remember not having an Atari. And I remember somewhere around 1983, the video game industry kind of crashed. There's a documentary on Netflix. You can watch it. It was all about, where they buried all the unused E.T. game cartridges because the video game industry just kind of hit maximum overload. And then that's when I finally got my own video game. I had the Intellivision system. I remember buying it at the toy store for $20. You can get the cartridges for $2 a piece. And it was finally for me I got back into something I should have been into 3 years prior. The Intellivision, you guys ever heard of Intellivision? But you've heard of Atari?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Bootleg John once again. Emily, what do you got next?
I have sock and boppers.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big thing in my house because it was like the best way to get out all of your anger at your siblings without possibly injuring them.
And you have, what, 3 siblings?
I have 3 siblings, yeah. So I remember me and my brother would be the ones that would fight with these. The only thing I will say is that they had like, there was like a, where like the seam came together, it was kind of rough. So if you knew how to really use your sock and bopper and you were really mad at your brother, you get him right on that seam. And then you tell your mom that you were just using a sock and bopper. And yeah, I can still remember the jingle for it, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah. It's like sock and boppers, more fun than a pillow fight. And I was like, yes.
Yes. Oh my God.
It is more fun than a pillow fight.
Let's see if we can't find the audio for that, because you sang it. Let's see if how close you got.
Oh gosh, okay.
Soccer bopper, soccer bopper. You can sock all day and bop all night. Soccer bopper, soccer bopper. More fun than a pillow fight. Blow 'em up, put your hand inside, get ready to have the time of your life. Soccer bopper, soccer bopper. Sock 'em once and bop 'em twice. Soccer bopper, soccer bopper.
Soccer Boppers, more fun than a pillow fight by Big Time Toys.
Soccer bopper.
That's funny. No, it was soccer boppers. SOCKER.
Really?
Boppers, not sock 'em. But yeah. But
Oh.
yet you had the jingle.
Yeah.
And you nailed the jingle.
She was singing along with it.
Yes, she was. Yeah.
You know, I feel like they should have done sock-'em.
I mean, it makes more sense. I think
would
soccer
think
sounds
so.
like
I'm going to
soccer.
bring them back.
You should.
And I'm going to rebrand them as sock-'em.
Different.
Yeah.
Not under the patent.
Yes. No way.
What do you got next, Al?
This next one isn't necessarily a toy, and it wasn't something that I got. It was just something that I
You really
think
wanted?
about. I really wanted, and I saw it on Facebook recently of people trying to use it. It was that Conair 3-strand hair braider thing that you would put your hair into. It was it was a hair thing that you would put your strands of hair into, and it would braid it for you, so you didn't have to go to the work of braiding it yourself. And it looked really easy and really cool, and I really wanted it, but I bet it was really tough, and it probably tangled your hair everywhere. But that was something I really, really wanted.
You remember these, Em?
I do. Did you ever have a crimper?
Oh my God. I remember wanting one. I didn't get one. I probably would have burned myself too much, but yeah.
Well, there was also like the jewel things
Yes,
too.
it would
Like it
insert a
stamps-
hair
Yeah.
as a jewel onto your hair, like
Yeah.
a sticker.
Yeah, it would stamp jewels onto your hair, which was super classy.
Yes.
And a look I hope comes back.
Me
actually.
too.
I don't feel like I can compete with what you guys are talking about. Whenever I speak, I feel like I go back into the time machine.
I mean, we kind of are too. These
Yeah.
aren't things that are huge now.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I got, and it actually took me about 25 minutes yesterday to try to figure out what it was actually called. Because all I remembered was it was this little helicopter. Now you get these air hogs where you fly the little helicopters. Now everybody's got a drone. But back then, remote control technology isn't what it was today. And sometimes in the mid-'70s when I was a kid, I got this toy where you just had like 2 levers and it would float the helicopter, but it was on a wire and it like had a hook. And I couldn't even figure out what it was called until I did a bunch of research this morning. It was called the Vertibird. I don't know if any of you out there ever had a Vertibird, but it basically was just you could kind of accelerate to make the helicopter go higher, and then another thing made it spin. And all it did was go in a circle. So you would have to set up like your cars in that circle and hope to like crash into them with the helicopter. That's about all you had. I don't know. But I thought that was a pretty cool gift at the time. And the best thing about it was, if my brother's out there listening, is he's a couple years younger. You would hope he would walk into range and you would just like fly it right into him and the spinning blades would whack him on the leg. Or
Yes.
You're so kind.
well, that's the way it was growing up back then. you were beating your brother
Yeah,
up
I
with
was gonna
soccer
say
boppers.
I can't say anything against that. I'm all for that. That's what I represent.
What do you got next, Emily? What's next on your list?
That is a good question. I have Tamagotchis.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of going back to like the technology thing, it was like a little circle that I'm pretty sure you could like clip onto your pants.
Yep.
And it was like a little some sort of animal. I don't know if it was like an actual animal or if it was like a kind of like an animorph type thing.
Yeah.
But you took care of your Tamagotchi. And
was it like the commercial that really wanted you to have it, or?
I don't know. I remember just everybody had their Tamagotchi. Like, everybody make sure that you're feeding your Tamagotchi because he will die and it will be your fault.
Yeah, it sounds similar to
It was
your
like
WebKit.
it was pre-Nintendo, like Nintendogs is what it was like.
Yes, it was like the precursor for that.
As cool. Like it was it black and white or was it color or were there both?
I want to say that maybe it advanced into color.
Yeah.
But I had the black and white one.
I never had one. I just remember
No?
other people did, and I was just like, God, they're so cool. They have a little, like, it was like the size of an egg, and you could clip it onto your belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Let's-
then it's like pixelated.
Let's go to the audio here.
Well, if it isn't Tamagotchi, her new favorite pet.
Yes.
So what's that make me? Fish sticks?
Oh, are you hungry?
Oh, no. By all means, feed it. Play till your heart's content.
Look, Goldie. I took good care of her, and she changed again.
Change? How about changing some water here?
Katie, Buzz is here.
So Tamagotchi can pause. I can pause, too. Want to see that again?
Tamagotchi, the original virtual reality pet. Your care determines the pets you get from Bandai.
That's the one you were talking about.
Yes. And I think they brought it back now. I think that's actually a thing
Really?
again. Yes. Yeah.
Don't they just have that like as an app on a phone?
Probably.
The best way to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Things aren't the same.
Now everybody, now even the 8-year-olds got smartphones. So that's crazy. So, Allie, tell me what else was on your Christmas dream list?
The second one, or my number 2 on my list, sorry, is a password journal.
Password
Journal. And I did have this. It didn't work, but it was like a plastic book cover is kind of what it looked like. It was a big notebook that was plastic, and it was supposed to be you could set up your own password that only you would know, and you would speak into it. Like if your password was like whatever you wanted it to be, you would just whisper that password to it, and that would open it. And it would only open to your voice, so you could keep all your secrets in your journal. And it never worked, at least not for me. But I thought it was really cool that I got it for Christmas. I was really excited.
Something you had too?
Yeah, I definitely had my password journal. No, it didn't work. Like, if anybody went up there and tried to open it, they totally could.
Yep.
They didn't have to say a password. They could have pried that thing open.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd write in it, but only your voice would open it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd write in it and then shut it and click it shut.
Let's hear the commercial. Vintage 2003.
Oh, gosh.
Dear Journal, today was a great day. We adopted a puppy, and I scored a goal in soccer.
Only the new password journal lets you decorate your cover any way you like.
Look, and it only opens to my voice. Girls rule.
Password accepted. Welcome back.
That's so cool.
Your password, please.
Girls rule.
Access denied.
We got my
See, the little
annoying
brother
little
was
brother
trying
trying
to
to
do
break into things. Didn't we?
Design your own cover with the new password journal. Password journal comes with gel pen, nightlight, and decoratable cover. Batteries not included. New from Girls.
I forgot it was like the invisible ink pen that you could
Yes, it
use.
was the light.
And you'd have to shine the light on it because then no one could get into it. But even if they did, which they did, they would have to have that light to look at what you wrote. Oh my
I'm
God.
pretty sure my password was also girls rule.
I bet mine was too.
Like-
We didn't have any creativity. We just took what the commercial said.
Like, that's a great password.
Yeah,
True.
The commercial showed like the little brother going, like listening at the door, and then he went in and he tried to say it, and he was trying to pry it open, and it wouldn't work.
Yep. Girls rule.
False advertising.
So, if you were giving a 5-star rating on Amazon now for the password journal, what would you give?
Like, for my nostalgia self, I would be like 4. But
4?
For usability and trustworthiness, I would give it like a 1.
Yeah.
it didn't want to work.
Good idea, bad execution.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would probably be really cool now, though.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have
I
a
mean,
face scanner.
they have apps for that, again, that type of thing.
No.
Now, when I was a kid, we had these things. When I was little, there was. If I said the word Weebles to you guys, what would you say?
They wobble, but they don't fall down.
Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. And Weebles were introduced back in the 70s. And you're looking at me like these eyes, Em, like you don't even know what I'm talking about.
I don't think so.
So Weebles, if you would think about it, were like it's like a little action figure, but if your action figure literally was an egg. And they were like bottom weighted, and they'd be painted on. So you'd have characters, like you'd have Farmer Weeble or Darth Vader Weeble or whatever it was. But then all you had were these little oval things that would never fall over because you'd set them down and they'd sit right on the bottom. They were oval. And the big thing was that you bought these, and then all of a sudden they had like the farm, and they'd have a slide, and they'd have like a horse that you'd like have a little bowl in that you'd set the Weeble in. It was the worst gift ever. I don't know. I mean,
they still make those and sell them though. Those? Probably like Disney Princess.
Yeah, it reminds me of those
Amazon right here. They have a farmyard Weebles.
Yeah. It reminds me of those things that they do now. They're all over Disney World.
Little people?
Or Tsum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Those stuffed animal things.
Yeah, where they don't really have any like actual like features to them. They just have like
all
the face.
Are the same shape with just like whatever character they are.
Yeah, here we go. Here's a vintage commercial. Here we go.
There's a wonderful world.
And there's a farmhouse and an RV. Yeah, and they're all eggs.
About the world we live in, doing things families do. Lovable Weebles are wobbling around. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. There's just nothing like them anywhere around. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
Romper Room makes Weeble toys.
Oh.
And it was the stupidest toy. I mean, once you got it, it was like all about the other things besides the Weebles. They had like the plane and a boat. They were just showing in the commercial. It was terrible. But I remember getting them. And then I remember they came out with a line, instead of them being like Weebles where they were round, they were just square. And I remember, and
they
you
really
played with
don't
this.
fall down.
And you played with this, I know, Al, because it still was probably at your grandma's house. It was a McDonald's that had.
I know what you're talking about.
It had a little McDonald's, but the little action figures they were just squares. So you'd plug them into the little spots.
Oh,
terrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that sounds like they fall down and they stay down.
Yeah. It was.
Oh, that's not a good commercial though.
It was not. And your Weebles, you couldn't mix them with your Weebles because you couldn't literally put the round Weeble in the square.
Oh,
there you go.
They were Play School, those square ones.
Yeah.
I just looked it up.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. They actually sit in a thing.
Yeah, they sit in like a notch.
Yes, I know that. That looks familiar.
Hey everyone, quick reminder, before we get back to the rest of the interview, I want to give a shout out to one of our partners, Ageless Apparel. They make a lot of great t-shirts, a lot of great products. If you've got an organization or just want to get some t-shirts made for your special event or occasion, give those folks a shout. You can find them on Facebook under Ageless Apparel. Just search Ageless Apparel. You'll find it. Austin and those folks will get back to you real quick. Quick turnaround time, quality products. Love those guys a lot. And great partners of me here on the What's That Like podcast. They make all of my t-shirts for me and do a great job. Thanks a lot. And let's get back to the interview. We're getting down to some of your, I think this is number 5 for you, Emily. What do you got?
Yeah. So I have Furby. Furby was very big. Mm-hmm. I just remember going to like Walmart around Christmas time and just seeing a giant Furby display.
All right, let's pull the commercial up. This seems to be the thing to spur the conversation. So, all right, here's a Furby commercial from 1998.
Uh-oh, whoopee! Me Amanda. Me Layla. Me Amanda. That's Furby. The more you play, the more they do. And say, Furby grows more amazing day by day. Furby, each sold separately. Batteries not included.
There you go, Furby. You mentioned it. Tell me about your Furby experience.
I think the big seller was that they got smarter, which now looking back on it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's dangerous.
That's terrifying.
Like they're going to take over the world. Like that was AI at its like simplest.
It was the first Alexa
Yeah.
There you go.
And now I'm.
You're shaking your head when you think about them, Al. What you had them.
Yeah. I don't remember how many or what color or anything. I don't have a specific memory. I just remember them sitting in my bedroom, and they don't like turn off at night. Like you could turn off like your baby shoo or whatever and turn it off, put it away, and it won't make noise. But this would like just blink, and it had that really loud blinking noise, if you know what I mean, the mechanism moving, and then it would just like squeal at you and want to talk. It was
or like the little ears would
they would wiggle back and forth.
Gosh.
They were just like good in concept, really creepy in execution. And I think like the closest thing to that now would be like the Hatchimals or whatever.
I don't
I don't know really what they are. I can just they appear similar in my head.
Yeah, like creepy.
Yeah.
Well, then was that one of those things that like, you know, you would hear the horror stories like, my Furby said, die, child, die.
Yeah.
Like,
my Furby's possessed. Yeah. That type of thing. These were the creepy toys that everyone seems to have a story about.
Yes.
Because they're...
like Tickle Me Elmo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Furby, number one on your list for probably the one you wanted, but just didn't like the most.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved seeing it at Walmart, and I should have just left it there.
Yeah.
Should have just left it at Walmart.
What about you, Al? What do you have number one on your list?
Number one, and I guess it's not the most exciting thing, but I have the Barbie cash register that would...
Yeah.
It had a scanner and it had a little headset on it, so you could talk into it, and all the buttons and money and
fake
all
credit
of that.
Cards,
fake credit cards that you could slide, and it really prepared me for working retail, honestly.
And you two worked together for full disclosure.
Yeah.
So you both worked at the same place.
Yeah. It prepared us.
I was going to say, it was your orientation. We actually just give you a Barbie register.
Fake credit cards and everything.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Did
It really
you guys
prepared
learn
me.
customer service from it too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You dealt with customers all day.
I'm cash register Barbie. Yeah. Always. It was just fun to pretend. And I liked all the Barbie stuff like that.
I think I remember you having this. Did it have a microphone?
Yeah.
Where, like you could talk over it like you were
like
paging the
assistance
store?
to cash register too. That type of thing. Yeah. You could push in and do that. And I loved all that Barbie stuff. Like the McDonald's Barbie. All of that is just kind of combined my number one. I wanted all of that stuff.
So this is this first mention of Barbie between the two of you, both girls growing up. In Emily, were you into Barbies big time as a kid? No,
not really. I mean, I got them, but I think it was just one of those things where like relatives that didn't really know you just got you a Barbie just
it was
because.
standard.
Yeah, because it was so cool. I do remember seeing like they would come out every year with the yearly
holiday Barbies.
Yeah, the holiday
Those
Barbie.
were a big deal.
Yeah, but you knew that you could never take it out of the...
You could never open it.
Yeah, so you never wanted it. Like, you're like, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
Talk about holiday Barbies and your grandmother, Al.
Oh, yeah. In her bedroom, she has, it's like 5 or 6 rows in a glass case of holiday Barbies.
All in the box.
All in the box.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no. I liked Barbie. I didn't necessarily want, like, oh, there's another blonde Barbie. I wanted, like... the themed Barbies, like the cash register thing, or that big Barbie head that you could design its hair.
Yes.
Those were the fun things for me. I even had like the Barbie computer games where you could design their clothes or ride horses and all of that type of thing. Those were my favorite.
I loved the Barbie horse and ride.
Yep.
I think it was
Horse Adventure.
Yes,
that one was the best.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. Those were like my favorite. Like I liked the Barbie video games.
Yes,
and the interactive things.
They were so fun. Yeah, I liked doing the hair and the makeup. Those were fun.
Those were Yeah. That's probably
those were more fun than just like the toy doll Barbie.
Because like they had the weird feet.
Yep. And
like,
their fingers and their hands
didn't move.
No.
I wanted a Barbie that looked like me, and that was a problem. Like my fingers come apart.
Yep.
And theirs do not.
Your knees don't bend the opposite way
Unfortunately.
either. Yeah.
If they do, it's a problem. Now, I mentioned knockoff Tonka trucks before. Did any of you get like knockoff Barbie stuff, and then you felt bad for it?
You can tell.
Yeah.
I remember noticing, and I remember... because we also did the American Girl doll thing.
Yeah.
And I remember one year I got a knockoff American Girl doll, and I was just like, this is trash. This is just not good.
Get out of my sight.
I wanted them to look like me, and the one that was off-brand that Santa got for me looked like me, and I was disappointed.
Yeah.
I just didn't like it. So the off-brand thing, I feel like you could usually tell.
My number one of toys that I just had to have stems from, you guys would probably guess this, Star Wars. The original Star Wars comes out in 1977. And at the time, what I would say is movie tie-in toys were not what they are today. Today, if a movie's going to come out, the toy manufacturers have been lined up for a year. They've had the script, they've built the toys, and now you actually get spoilers, so to speak, about the movie based on what the toys are coming out. Back in 1977, nobody cared. Like, maybe they had a couple of, apes, like from Planet of the Apes or something. From the early 70s. So they thought, well, sci-fi toys going into a Star Wars movie, wasn't going to be a big deal. So actually the movie studio gave George Lucas all the merchandising rights back for Star Wars, which was actually the way he made the most money. Yeah. And if you think about it from that standpoint, he goes out and he tries to find a toy manufacturer to do it, and only one company did it. I think they were from Cincinnati. The toy company was called Kenner, and they were totally caught off guard. They didn't have toys available really quickly. So for a 7-year-old kid like myself, you wanted Star Wars toys for Christmas, but this is what you ended up with.
Star Wars figures. R2-D2. Chewbacca, Luke, and Princess Leia. They're the Star Wars Early Bird set of figures. These 4 action figures are not yet available, but this Star Wars Early Bird certificate package is in stores with this colorful Star Wars picture display stand and certificate to send in to get a set of 4 figures by mail. They'll be sent to you at home between February 1st and June 1st. The Star Wars Early Bird certificate package, new from Kenner.
So let me ask you girls a question. You wanted a toy. It wasn't available. And what you were going to get was a certificate that said you were going to get toys sometime between February and June of the next year. How did that make you feel if that wound up underneath your Christmas tree?
I don't even know. It would be so many emotions.
Yeah, it's like all of your hormones built up, so excited, and then you open it and you're just let down.
Oh, just the waiting game then. I'm sure, you check the mail every day.
Yeah, there was no tracking info.
No.
You didn't know when it was coming. Between February and June.
God, what a long time.
A 4-month window when your toys might show up that you got for Christmas. And let me tell you, those action figures, they pretty much sucked.
Well, yeah.
You talk about Barbies not having a range of motion. These were just basically cast plastic with crappy paint jobs. And like Luke Skywalker had a lightsaber. It was just a handle that slid out of his arm and kind of come out. And they would go like this or whatever. And R2-D2's head would move, but I don't think his legs did.
Just push him.
Yeah, it was just crazy. And they were real small. But then by 1978, they had it figured out. And then you were all over everything, they had my favorite toy of all time was my Star Wars X-Wing. My brother had the TIE Fighter because he was the bad kid. He's the evil Empire. And I was the good
Umpire.
kid. I said Empire. Shut up. And one of the things they would sell you was the big Death Star. But it wasn't the whole Death Star. It was just like a quarter of the Death Store. That's Death Store now. Now I can't even speak. Thanks a lot, Alison. The Death Star. But we didn't have that. So we had my uncle had built my mom a bookcase in high school, and that became our Death Star. So all the different levels of the bookcase is where my brother and I played Star Wars. So it was probably the most amazing set of toys you'd ever have. And then you take your toys to school, and then of course, some kid would show up and he'd have the new thing, and you're like, I hate that guy.
Yeah.
And if they got the new character and you didn't, so you just spent all your time collecting these toys, which now Star Wars toys collecting. All that stuff I had as a kid that I destroyed 10 times over, I could have put probably one of you through college with if I had them in mint condition.
Isn't it crazy? Yeah.
So of all the things we've talked about, how much of these toys do you think you or your parents still have?
Oh.
I know we have the Barbie Dream House still.
Yeah.
And it wasn't I know before I was born, they had a really, really fancy Barbie dream house. I had like a Barbie apartment with a shower and an oven, and like it looked like an apartment. I know we still have that up in the rafters because we just got it down for the cousins. But anything else on here, I don't know if I know I probably have the Webkins somewhere, but
yeah,
Webkins is still around. That's still a thing that people do.
What do you think, Em?
I would probably say we might have like a piece of a Polly Pocket somewhere, but nothing. Actually, we moved, so like a lot. It was like it was in that time period where like I was too old for Polly Pocket at that point, so I think we got rid of a lot of that stuff. And now I'm just kind of sad.
I do remember those Polly Pockets you had.
Oh, yeah.
I think, in a family, you've got 3 siblings. You've got Alison, you've got 1 brother. I think this is one of those things that at some point when they're in their 30s or 40s, they're going to have like a stomach issue. And they're going to do an x-ray and figure out that there's been a Polly Pocket lodged in their stomach for the last 30 years. Yeah.
Last night when I was looking up toy ideas for this, like just different toys from when we were younger, I saw the picture of like the Polly Pocket stretch limo set, and it came with like 4 outfits. And I told my mom, I remember chewing on those because they were rubber and they were easy to chew on like gum. And I looked at that picture and I went, God, that's disgusting. Like, how did I not swallow a bunch of these? Or I probably did.
Yeah. So tell me this: is there anything beyond what we've talked about that maybe you thought would have been a good gift you didn't get? Maybe your friends had. Something you were really jealous of that you never really got.
All of us, my brother and my sisters, we all wanted a trampoline so bad.
Yeah?
It was one of those things where we would ask for it every Christmas, and we never, ever got it. Like, we would, like, we're like, okay, well now, like, at the beginning it was just a trampoline, and then it was like a trampoline, but it has the walls on it, so we won't fall off. And then, it still was one of those things where, like, no, it's too dangerous. And then we got to the point where we were, like, creative. Like, we're like, what about an in-ground trampoline? That means there's no way you can fall off, and it's super safe, and we still never got a trampoline. That is one thing that, like, we asked for consistently, and my mom would never budge on it. Yeah. Never. And I don't think, like, even if I asked her now if she would get me a trampoline, I don't think she would get it for me. Like, it was probably a good call on Mom. So,
well, they loved you. So, yeah. Al, you had a trampoline.
Yeah, I can tell. I know, man. I mean, yeah.
But it would get kind of kooky dangerous. I remember, you would have all the neighborhood girls over, and you'd all be bouncing. And I remember screaming how many times, 1 of you at a time or 2 at a time, because there'd be bodies flying.
Oh, yeah. The place. Well, we also had the net on it, and I remember someone had just gotten their ears pierced and got snagged on the net, and their earring ripped out. And that was pretty traumatic. It wasn't me, but it did happen. And then we'd have a hose, and it would get wet, and then we'd be sliding everywhere and bonking each other in the head, and it was always something like that. So yeah, I can tell the love was really there.
We just wanted to give you what you wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was something you never got you always did want?
The moon shoes.
Moon shoes.
Moon shoes.
What are moon shoes?
They were like little trampolines for your feet. Mm-hmm. And if we put them on now, they wouldn't do anything because we're too heavy.
Yeah.
But if you were a younger kid, they were basically just these big purple plastic rings that were probably like 3 times the size of your feet, and then your foot would go in a little thing that would be like a spring attached to the ring, and you would just be able to like bounce, and it would be like you're walking on the moon with no gravity. And they were really dangerous, so it makes sense why I didn't have them. But I remember I had friends that had them, and we'd be in their basements playing on them, and I rolled my ankle a couple times. I'm like, maybe this wasn't the worst idea to not get me these, but I really wanted them because I thought they were so stellar.
A couple of years ago.
I get it.
Thank you.
A couple of years ago, these hoverboards hoverboards came out. And everybody's getting hoverboards, and then YouTube is full of everybody crashing on hoverboards, and then hoverboards and their batteries get banned, and you can't buy hoverboards. Maybe you can now because they improved them or something.
They weren't exploding.
That would be a thing to me that was like everybody wanted, but then looking back, you're like, that's the stupidest gift you could ever get anyone. If you guys, would you think of anything that like maybe you had or your friends had or that was for sale at some point that you look back now as adults and go, why did kids ever have those? What would it be?
I know they weren't mine, but my Aunt Ashley had the Barbie with the roller skates that sparked, and they would literally catch things on fire. Like if you rolled Barbie really fast on these rollerblades, they would spark. It was like they had flint in them or something, and they would spark, and they could totally catch everything on fire if you did it right.
Yeah, I remember they were like had the little lighter mechanism in them, and it would throw the little
like
sparks.
What?
Yeah.
Like no one looks like that when they rollerblade. I don't know. I'm surprised that was sold in stores for children.
How horrifying.
Yeah.
You remember anything? Yeah.
Actually, one of my favorite gifts that I ever got was a pogo stick. And like I begged for this pogo stick. I begged. I'm like, I am going to be the next pogo stick god. And I wanted it so bad, and I didn't think I got it because I didn't get it on Christmas. And then I got it later in the day from my grandpa. My grandpa got me a pogo stick, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. I used it once. It tipped over because you have to have like some sort of subhuman like
balance.
Yeah. And I did not. And I used it once, and I was like, no, children should not use this ever. And like I'm pretty sure those have been around for a long time.
Forever.
Oh yeah.
And I couldn't do it, but I got my pogo stick, and that's all that matters. But children should not use pogo sticks.
I think you had a pogo stick.
Oh yeah,
we bought it. We bought it used at a yard sale, I think, for you.
Good.
From Paul and Beth Schneider.
Probably.
But think about this question now. Was there ever a time like you both, you probably still do it. You see there's gifts under the tree, and you might cruise by and go, is that my name on that gift? And then you're looking at that gift and you're looking at that box, and you opened up, and you couldn't wait to open that box, and you were sure it was one thing, and then you opened it up and it was something else. Do you remember anything like that on Christmas morning, Em?
In the past few years, my mom's gotten pretty devious when it comes to wrapping things. So like if it's, let's say if it's a Mac laptop box, you can pretty much guess that the Mac laptop is not in that box.
Yeah.
It's going to be something ridiculous. I don't know what was in there. I'm trying to think. Something ridiculously small, like maybe like an iTunes gift card or something. Just not, you open it up, but it feels really light, and you're like, oh, maybe this the newest Air. Like, it's the newest Air version. And it's not.
It was Air.
Yeah, it sure was
Just
Air.
Air.
Yeah.
Just Air. That's the new brand that they came out with, actually.
Yeah. What about you, Allie?
I remember, it's not necessarily like I was disappointed, but I don't even remember what toy it was, but you wrapped something in a box for like a desk chair. Mm-hmm. And I thought like, oh my God, this gift is so big. I bet it's really fun, like Lego set or a toy. And I undid the wrapping paper, and I was like, oh my God, it's a desk chair. Like, what is the point of this? I don't remember what was in the box, but it wasn't a desk chair, so I wasn't too disappointed. But I remember as a kid always thinking like, oh my gosh, I wonder for Christmas if they're gonna take me to the zoo or to Disney World. And I always get my hopes up like this, that something really big or something really exciting you were gonna surprise us with, and it wouldn't happen. And I didn't want to be a complaining kid, so I never said anything, but I was always just like, Christmas would end and I would go, oh, it didn't happen this year. It was always that sort of thing that I would play things up in my head that something really big was going to happen, and then it wouldn't.
Pressure she's putting.
I was going to say, Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah.
High stakes.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, the thing I remember wanting the most, and this is probably late 70s as well, is I wanted a slot car track. You know what those are? Where you just had the plastic track and you'd have the little controllers and the cars would race around. I wanted one really, really bad. And before Christmas, a box showed up and it was of the proper proportion. You know, it was, you know, a couple feet across, 6 or 7 inches thick. And I'm going, that's got to be the slot car track. It's got to be the slot car track. Christmas morning comes. I'm so happy. I open it up, rip it open. It was what was called a toss across. Which was basically a little beanbag game where you threw it at these things and you played tic-tac-toe. I hate the toss-across. Hated the toss-across. Biggest disappointment of my life. I told that story to my wife, your mother, Alison, and probably in somewhere in my mid-20s, she bought me a slot car track. So finally at some point I got one. But there was never anything did you ever open something up for Christmas and just immediately go, oh, I hate this?
Probably any time as a kid I got clothes, I was like, God, this one. Because it would be wrapped in a box and I'd go with probably a toy.
Yeah.
And it was like clothes or something. And I would just be disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can totally get behind that. Or like now, like when I get socks, I'm kind of excited.
Same.
Like I'm like, yes, socks. I need some.
Yep.
But then I was like, oh my gosh, socks, really?
I know. What a waste.
Yeah,
right?
like what a waste of a box. Put some toys in there.
Thanks, Santa.
Yeah, thanks, Santa, for nothing.
Well, we never mentioned you mentioned Legos maybe a second ago. Legos, were you guys into Legos at all?
They weren't my thing as much as they were my brothers.
Yeah.
Or anything. I mean, I liked playing with them, but I wasn't the person that wanted like you were talking about Star Wars or something like. I didn't want the set where you'd build the Death Star or anything of that sort. I just would I'll build a square of Legos. It was never, I wanted to build something. I was just wanted to put them together.
Yeah, it's probably more of a boy thing. I mean, when I was a kid, when you got Legos, you got like a box of Legos.
Yeah.
You didn't get
just the colors.
You didn't get a set where you built a town that was, or a fire truck or the Millennium Falcon. You just got a bunch of colors of Legos and you had to use your own imagination as to what it was. And I think that was a lot of toys back in the day for maybe more for boys. But, you know, you had erector sets, things like that, where you had to build whatever you thought you could build out of it. You want to be really freaked out. One of the things that, I don't think I got it, but maybe my uncle did, and he gave it to me. If you think about this from the 60s and the 70s, people would give their kids chemistry sets as a kid. So
Mr. Wizard.
You could build your own, nitrous oxide bomb or something. It had all the chemicals, and you had experiments, and literally you could blow the friggin' house up, with some of this stuff. And that was a nice Christmas gift.
Those basically became the Easy Bake Oven.
Easy Bake Oven. Did either of you have those?
Yeah. I did.
Did you ever bake anything in them?
Once. I think the first day you bake whatever they sent with you, and then you have to buy.
Yep. You run out and you're like, what's the point? I'm making a second-rate brownie with a light bulb.
Yeah. I might as well just see if my mom will make it in the actual oven.
Yeah.
It would be better.
With real ingredients.
Yeah.
So what would you consider the greatest rip-off toy of all time?
What was the point of Tickle Me Elmo?
Yeah.
Honestly, looking back on it, I was talking to my mom about it last night, and she said that my first Christmas, it was Tickle Me Elmo, that was the first year. That was the first year it came out. She goes, people were fighting over them, and I got one so early to make sure that you would have it. And she goes, you hated it. It just laughs. And that's it. And that's horrifying now that you think about it. This thing didn't show any other emotion but laughter. Which is great, but horrifying.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably something like Tickle Me Elmo, which was a big fad. For some reason, everybody had to have a Tickle Me Elmo, and it shook a little and it laughed.
Some of the things I asked my audience on Facebook, some of the things that they remembered, 2 or 3 of the people that commented on there mentioned something called the spirograph. Does that mean anything to you too? You remember the Spirograph? Did you have one?
I used them at Grandma's.
Yes,
but they
'cause-
were not something that would be in stores when I was a kid.
Yeah, this was something that your mom and I, maybe your aunt would have had if you
Aunt
played
Ashley,
with.
yeah.
The Spirograph, Emily, was just basically a series of different plastic shapes
Okay.
with gears on them. And it had little holes strategically placed. So you'd put a pen in it, you'd hold it down, and then you'd spin it, and you'd make little like flower designs or something like that.
Teachers would have those.
Yeah, and it was something that, you thought you were really an artist because maybe they'd give you a bunch of different colored pens. And I bet to end the show here, we could probably find a Spirograph commercial and everyone can hear what it was all about.
Swirls and curlicues and clouds of color we...
Spirograph, the miracle drawing set that lets you make a million marvelous designs, now introduces Super Spirograph. Bigger, more exciting, with a new assortment of snap-together pieces that let you make bigger, more fantastic designs than ever before.
Dream designs, they can be more.
With new Super Spirograph from Kenner.
Just Super Spirograph.
Super.
How about
Amazing.
that? Yeah, anyway, Spirograph was something you use up all the ink and paper in your house, and you just cover your mom's refrigerator with all these things that she couldn't not throw away. That was really it. At the end of the day, it was kind of boring after you did it once or twice. I'd have more fun with the multicolored ink pen.
Yeah. Trying to put them all down at the same time.
Yeah,
I was.
Never worked, but you always wanted to.
Yeah, you were going to be the kid that did it.
Well, Al, your first time on the podcast. Did you have a good experience? Did you have fun?
Yeah.
You can come back sometime and just sit in with your old man?
I guess so.
Yeah. Emily, second time for you.
Yeah.
Had you back on a different topic, but what's going on in Emily's world lately? What you up to?
So I got done with 2 shows over the past couple months. I was in Blackburn College's production of 12th Night. I played a guy. I did some stage combat, which was really exciting for me because I had never done either of those things. And then I was in a production of, it was called The Butterfly and Violin. And I'm actually going to be starting rehearsals for my next show at the end of December. It is called Transferred, a story about life after death. It's going to be at the Rogue Theater in Alton. And it is February 15th, 16th, 17th, and then the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th.
And what's that one about?
So it's a devised piece, so that means we're going to be we don't have a script. So we are going to be making it up. It's going to be a lot of improv, which we talked about last time. And it is just that process of, it's after you die, what happens? And that is all we know right now. We haven't started our rehearsals yet, but it is the possibility of anything that can happen after you die.
Sounds interesting.
I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, and where can people get tickets for it?
I would go like the Rogue Facebook page, the Rogue Theater Facebook page, and then I'm sure there will be information on ticket purchases on there.
Well, hey, Allie, we'll see you, of course, over the next couple of days. But Emily, I want to wish you and your whole family a Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully you get something good this year and your mom wraps it up in a box that you can recognize.
Yeah.
So you're not disappointed.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to say to the listeners out there?
Have a Merry Christmas. Have a Happy New Year. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Thank you both. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, another great episode. I want to thank Emily and Allie for coming in. Once again, if you want to catch up with Emily and everything she's got going on, go to the Rogue Theater. I think you'll find that page on Facebook. She's got some productions coming up there in the new year. And for my daughter and myself, we just want to thank you for joining in with some of the banter we had going back and forth as well. With that being said, that's it for this episode of the What's That Like podcast. I am John Knowles. Peace out. What's That Like is available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Search for What's That Like. Subscribe today and never miss an episode. Streaming is available at SoundCloud.com and on the SoundCloud app. Follow What's That Like at Facebook.com/What's That Like Podcast and on Twitter at What's That Like Pod. All opinions of the guests of the What's That Like podcast are their own, not necessarily the views of the host or the podcast producers. We hope you enjoy this podcast serving Central Illinois and beyond. Peace out!